Hey guys, what is up? It is the Fast Break Report here, bringing you guys another vlog. And, well, Coca-Cola Zero Sugar. Alright, let's see how this tastes. Tastes just like Diet Coke, to be honest with you. Alright, whatever. We'll run with it. So, obviously, the Pacers got mollywopped by the Celtics last night, but I don't feel like talking about that because I got to play that juggernaut of a basketball team again tomorrow, and unfortunately, I'm not feeling confident in our chances of winning that game after what we just witnessed last night. But there is something I want to talk about differently than our regularly scheduled programming, and that is the Sacramento Kings. Oh my, how the mighty have fallen. So, I think in my most recent trade video, I think I said that I don't think De'Aaron Fox would get traded. Well, that has changed. That has changed rather quickly within the course of a couple days. The Sacramento Kings have fired their head coach, Mike Brown. Which, if you're a Pacers fan, I'm gonna make a mild request here as a Pacers fan. I would like Mike Brown to be on the coaching staff because we need somebody who can teach this horrendous unit defense. We got mollywopped by the Celtics last night, and so if we could just get somebody on the roster who understands defense, that would be greatly appreciated. I don't care who you got to get rid of on that staff, but adding Mike Brown to it would be greatly appreciated. But the Sacramento Kings fired Mike Brown. And I'm going to be honest, I feel like Mike Brown was kind of scapegoated. This is a guy who literally a year ago was the coach of the year, unanimously, in the NBA. After the Sacramento Kings, he got hired and turned that team around immediately. And then towards the start of the season, Mike Brown started holding players accountable, but doing it publicly. And from that point on, it seemed like bro lost the locker room relatively quickly. Now, I will say this, okay? They're not the youngest team in the league. They're like the 17th youngest team in the league or something like that. I remember seeing a video like that. But he criticized the star player. He criticized De'Aaron Fox. They played against the Detroit Pistons. They were up, and they managed to lose that game in the last 4 minutes on a 4-point play by Jaden Ivey, who Jaden Ivey shot a three. De'Aaron Fox closed out on him, fouled him on the three-pointer. The three-pointer went in, and Jaden Ivey made the free throw to win the game and seal the deal for the Detroit Pistons. And in the post-game press conference, Mike Brown came out and basically pointed the finger at De'Aaron Fox and was like, "Why is there even a closeout on that? Like we went over this in the huddle." You know what I'm saying? And that's essentially what Mike Brown said. You know, he kind of said it without saying it per se. You know, not like word for word, but basically what he said was. And it makes sense, defend the three. There's no reason we should be giving up a three here. At worst, this game should go into overtime. Not only did the game not go into overtime, but they lost on De'Aaron Fox not guarding his man, leaving Jaden Ivey open enough for a three. And then once he closes out to defend him, he fouls him on the shot, and the three goes in, and he gets the foul. And to be fair to Mike Brown's defense, he's not wrong. Nothing Mike Brown said in that press conference was wrong. Okay, but De'Aaron Fox's reaction in the press conference was like, well, it doesn't change anything anyway. And I get that, but that's kind of a shitty attitude to have as the star player of the Sacramento Kings. This is a team that I think is just having a down year, if I'm being honest with you. I think Kevin Huerter plays way better than he has been. I think Malik Monk plays a lot better than he has been. The DeMar DeRozan thing was kind of a desperation move, it felt, by the Sacramento Kings. It feels like they went out and got DeMar DeRozan in order to just add something when they had a lot of depth issues. That's been an issue with this team for a while. But now, obviously De'Aaron Fox denied the extension that he was offered in the offseason in the opportunity to not only make more money, but also to find out what direction the team is going in. De'Aaron Fox is 27 years old now, and he's just entering like the prime of his career. He's a guy who's, I believe, a one-time All-Star. He has been All-NBA one time. De'Aaron Fox is one of the best point guards in basketball right now at the current point in time. He's averaging 26 points a game. Yeah, he's not an amazing three-point shooter, but he's a guy that can put points on the board. Now, I will say this. De'Aaron Fox in the first half of that Pistons game played atrocious. I mean atrocious. 0 of 7 from the field and 1 point at halftime. Obviously, I'm a Pacers fan, and Tyrese Halliburton has played full games where he's scored 0 points this year, and is even one of his most recent performances was where he only scored 4 points in an entire game. But De'Aaron Fox did go off in the second half for 25. And there was a conversation between Mike Brown and De'Aaron Fox at practice about that game, which was recorded. But if you watch like the lip reading a little bit, if you have some lip reading skills, you can basically see Mike Brown talking to De'Aaron Fox about that Pistons game and the first half and how he needs to attack the basket in the first half. It looked almost like Mike Brown said, like, the first half was your fault, the second half was my fault. And not for nothing, but De'Aaron Fox is a member of Clutch Sports, and he is represented by Rich Paul. And Rich Paul sat down with the front office and was like, "Hey, what's the direction of this team?" And now that they have fired Mike Brown, I hate to say this, but like there's no way that this team gets better from this point on. Yeah, you have Keegan Murray. Keegan Murray's very good. Sabonis is very good. I think Malik Monk and Kevin Huerter are two really, really good players that I think are just... I just feel like that whole team, for whatever reason, gave up on Mike Brown. And, it feels really weird to say this, that we live in a time where, if coaches criticize their star player or their players... that they end up losing their jobs, but that seems to be the era that we're in. Head coaches don't last long in the NBA anymore. I know Pacers fans like Rick Carlisle, but I'm a guy at this point where I'm like, okay, like Rick Carlisle is, we need to do something about the defense. You know what I'm saying? Like, even if the offense stays where it is, like, we need to do something about the defense. But historically, if you look at some of these coaches, Monty Williams, Mike Budenholzer, Dwayne Casey, who else? Mike Brown now. Like, even if you've won Coach of the Year recently, right? It doesn't matter. That's something that I think fans need to understand. And I think players understand it. But I don't think fans understand that coaches are temporary anymore in the NBA. You don't have Eric Spoelstra's and Greg Popovich's anymore, and Phil Jackson's and Pat Riley's, right? If you upset the star player, odds are you're not going to be there anymore. And we figured that out, essentially. We saw it with Mike Budenholzer the first time with Giannis, which that wasn't his fault. Mike Budenholzer is a great head coach. The idea that he lost his job the first time is astonishing to me, actually. But, Mike Brown, nothing Mike Brown said was wrong. Yeah, De'Aaron Fox fucked up. And you know what? Sometimes in order to fix yourself, you need to be criticized. Sometimes, when you, if you fuck up, it needs to be known, or else you're just going to continue to do it. And I just think it's really insane to me that, I get that basketball players are not, 30, like most basketball players are not, 40-year-old men, you know what I'm saying? They're not LeBron, they're not Kobe Bryant, they're not Vince Carter, right? But a lot of these basketball players are not, they're thrust into these situations at, 18 years old, some of them, some of them in their early, mid-20s even. They get into the league, and they still have this mindset, right, of like, they're kind of still children mentally. Maybe not physically, but mentally, you got to figure these are kids fresh out of college that are getting paid millions of dollars, and they think the world is their oyster. And they've probably never been criticized ever in their lives when it comes to playing basketball. You have to understand a lot of the players that play in the league through their entire childhood and most of their collegiate and school careers were the best players on their team for their entire lives. So to have somebody come out and say that, hey, you fucked up, you can't do this, right? Like, we went over this and you still did it, right? Like, I get it that Mike Brown maybe should have addressed that behind closed doors, but sometimes, like, this is tough love. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes, if somebody comes out and says something in the public eye, there's a reason for it. Like, this is the first time I feel, anyway, I don't follow the Kings much, but this is the first time I feel I've ever heard De'Aaron Fox get criticized publicly. And obviously that the Sacramento Kings have problems of their own in the front office with ownership and all this other stuff, right? I don't think coaches should lose their jobs for criticizing star players. Now, I understand De'Aaron Fox is a unique situation because he is, contract extension eligible, and he didn't sign the first one, and now he's like looking for you to give him a reason to stay. And if he doesn't like Mike Brown, I understand why you got rid of Mike Brown. But if you're the Sacramento Kings, this is a situation that you need to, I feel like, should at least try to what's the word I'm looking for? Like, mediate in it in some way, or have a sit down between the head coach and the star player and find out what's going wrong so you can solve your differences. And I feel like that was not done in this situation. I feel like the front office called De'Aaron Fox in or had a conversation with him, whether texting or over the phone or whatever, and just asked him if he wants Mike Brown gone, or if he was happy with Mike Brown. And if he said no, which I feel like he likely did, and they just said, okay, fine, he's gone. But the problem is now, what's your direction? You have Sabonis, who's a very good player, who I can think of a bunch of teams that he would work well on. Golden State's one of them. De'Aaron Fox is a guy that I'm sure the Spurs would love to acquire, especially put him next to Victor Wembanyama. If you could turn like Julian Champagne, Keldon Johnson, a couple picks, and Chris Paul into De'Aaron Fox, if I'm the San Antonio Spurs, I'd do that, But the thing is, the Sacramento Kings have always been bad. And at this point, it's just kind of like, what are you going to do differently? De'Aaron Fox is easily the best player they've had in years. I mean, since DeMarcus Cousins. So, and for whatever reason, it seems like they're an organization that just simply cannot get it right. I don't know what their deal is, but they fumbled the bag on DeMarcus Cousins. They seem to be like Buddy Hield didn't want to be there. It seems like that's an organization that nobody wants to play for. And at some point you have to ask yourself why. At some point you have to ask yourself, is it really the players? Is it really the coaching? Is it the front office? Is it ownership? These are the questions you need to start asking yourself. And, if I'm Sacramento at this point, unfortunately you're looking like you're in a Toronto Raptors situation. If I were them, I would just trade Fox, Sabonis, DeRozan, all these guys for as many draft picks as you can get and see if that works for you. It sucks that, I feel like Sacramento Kings fans had, Sacramento's a fun team to watch when they're good. They were really fun to watch a year ago. They were just setting the league on fire, it felt. And they're a fun team to watch, but I feel bad for Sacramento Kings fans because it feels like you just got a taste of what it's like to be a good team. I think they won 48 games. And now we're back at ground zero again, where they're at the bottom of the Western Conference. They don't play defense well. They're ranked 24th in the NBA in 3-point shooting. They don't knock down their 3-pointers. They can't buy a 3-point shot. They don't play defense really at all, which is shocking. And when you're a team that has all these rough patches and these ups and downs, and you have depth problems, and you can't make 3-pointers, and you don't play defense, they're in a similar situation to the Indiana Pacers, actually. The Pacers, another team that's the Pacers are in a little bit of a better situation than the Sacramento Kings are, but not by much. Even Indiana has its things where like we're looking at Tyrese Halliburton and we're like, okay, what's going on with Tyrese Halliburton? Like, why does he seem like a completely different person this year compared to last year, right? So I like, that's another situation where we just don't know what's going on with that. But yeah, the Sacramento Kings, man, it's just unfortunately they're a team that they're in a stacked Western Conference, just like the Pacers are in a stacked Eastern Conference, and they're on the outside looking in, and unfortunately it looks like things are getting worse before they are getting any better. And usually when you're in that situation, honestly, if I were the Sacramento Kings, I obviously you would wish to keep De'Aaron Fox and try to build around him. But the thing is, Sacramento's not a hot free agent destination. I do think the duo of Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox could work if you had the right third piece and the right bench unit and the right coach, and you maybe tried to play defense, like actually made an effort to play defense, but they don't do that. So I don't know. I don't know what the deal is going to be. Obviously I've seen a lot of teams go around talking about teams that could be in the De'Aaron Fox sweepstakes. I think the one team that makes the most sense to me is the San Antonio Spurs. They have enough young talent. They have the contracts to make it happen. Obviously they'd like to get a younger point guard back than Chris Paul, but Chris Paul's on an expiring deal. Keldon Johnson's a nice player. Julian Champagne's a nice player. They have a couple early second round picks that are basically late firsts. And if they sent like an early second round pick, 2 firsts, Julian Champagne, Chris Paul, and Keldon Johnson to the Sacramento Kings for De'Aaron Fox, I think that's a trade that would go through. I think that's a trade that would work out pretty well for both teams. And putting De'Aaron Fox next to Victor Wembanyama would be really, really nice for the San Antonio Spurs. But I don't want to get ahead of myself, but, I think, a couple days ago we were all talking about the, De'Aaron Fox not getting traded at all, and, like, this was just stupid speculation. Now I'm at a point that, like, now that Mike Brown was fired and, it seems like De'Aaron Fox is closely approaching his last nerve, I have a feeling De'Aaron Fox, before the deadline in February, in the next month or so, depending on how they play, I feel like at this point it's more likely than not that De'Aaron Fox is going to become available. Now, I don't think there's a lot of crazy landing spots for him. You have San Antonio, you have Houston as two of like the really big locations. Miami could maybe get involved if they put the right package together. But there's not a lot of teams that can even afford De'Aaron Fox. And there's a lot of teams that even if they could, like one trade that you could look at and maybe make a little sense of is like the 76ers trading Tyrese Maxey for De'Aaron Fox straight up. Would maybe not be the end of the world. I think De'Aaron Fox is a little bit better player than Tyrese Maxey at this point, but Tyrese Maxey is a younger player than De'Aaron Fox and would fit. I think both players fit the timeline of the opposite team a little bit better. Like, for example, like the 76ers are trying to win. I think De'Aaron Fox helps them do that. And Tyrese Maxey is like an up-and-coming young guy. However, Tyrese Maxey's extension in the long run will be cheaper than any extension that the 76ers have to give De'Aaron Fox. So that's the flip side of the coin. Also, when you consider the 76ers are kind of a mess at the moment, I don't even know if that's a place De'Aaron Fox would want to be traded to, but it's some fuel for thought. It's the idea that, Maxey for De'Aaron Fox makes sense, but at the same time, it's kind of like the 76ers would have to put themselves even deeper into salary cap space hell in order to keep De'Aaron Fox around. So, I don't know. I don't really know what's going to happen here, but I'm at a point now where I kind of think De'Aaron Fox could get traded. Another team that you could maybe see De'Aaron Fox go to is the Lakers. And that's a team that's, obviously just across town, or like just, a little further up the state in Sacramento. But it's just the idea D'Angelo Russell would have to be included in that trade, and Jared Vanderbilt plus probably Dalton Knecht. And I do not know if the Lakers would want to make a trade like that, especially, actually, I don't know. You never know. LeBron's probably only got a year or two left, and De'Aaron Fox with Anthony Davis would not be the end of the world for Lakers post-LeBron. which is not bad, but I don't think the Lakers have the draft capital to make a trade like that happen. Maybe, who knows? Maybe they could acquire some draft capital by trading away some guys for some picks or something like that. But at that point, at what cost? You know, at what cost do you ruin your depth essentially to acquire De'Aaron Fox? That's the question. Even though the Lakers at this point, I don't know where they're at in the Western Conference, but yeah, they're 6th. Adding De'Aaron Fox would be a nice piece for the Lakers, especially with Anthony Davis still being there. But I don't know. I'm not sure what a trade like that looks like. Maybe I'll put a video together where we overlook some of that stuff and you know, go over like potential, like some realistic trades for De'Aaron Fox. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. So tell me what you guys think about this down below in the comment section below. A like helps me out. Subscribe if you guys want to see more on the Fast Break Report. I'm out of this motherfucker. Peace, guys.